Hey everyone, I'm going to be doing a reading just asking what we can do to fight back at this time and what are the most effective ways for us to fight back at this time, because everything is insane. There's just so much violence happening and there's no reason for it. So I'm just going to ask what are some ways that we can resist? I'll face it down a little bit more so you can kind of see the cards. Hard angle. I'll show you the cards. Angels, ancestors, spirit guides, please protect this reading, ensure its accuracy, and that it is for my highest good and the highest good of all. How should we fight back at this time? What are going to be the best ways for us to counteract what's happening right now? Yeah. Empress. Cups. Strength. Ooh. Cups. Ten of Swords. Great. The Emperor. Nine of Wands. Last one. Any other cards? Now or never. Alright. So I'll just show you the cards that came out. We got Empress, King of Cups, Strength for the top row. Then we got Nine of Cups, Ten of Swords, Emperor. And for the last row, we have the Ten of Wands, the Nine of Wands, and the Page of Wands. And 333 on the timer as I said that as well. So that may be of significance. Okay. So with the Empress, I feel like this has to do with creating and self-care and putting things out into the world. I think part of fascism is that it kind of suppresses the arts, because the arts are a way of counteracting narratives that they're pushing, because they don't have control over the things that people create, they don't have control over the things that people create. So I think part of resistance right now is going to look like creative people get creative. Don't stop making things. I know it's really overwhelming right now, and it's really hard to feel like it's important as an artist. I struggle with this sometimes because I'm there's so much going on and I want to make this thing because it makes me happy. But that is what makes it important. The fact that it makes you happy is what makes it important, and the fact that it can connect people, and that it in itself, creating in a time like this is an act of resistance. And so it is important that the creatives keep creating. And whether your art is reflective of what's going on, or it's just reflective of like your inner world or the things that you want to see in the world, it still deserves to exist. So keep creating, even though it can feel very, very difficult right now. I think also part of that is like the Empress is often depicted as like pregnant. So I think this is a time for us to be thinking of new ideas and new ways of doing things that are different from what we are currently doing. Clearly the structures that are in place are functioning as intended, and that is a big problem because they're not benefiting the majority of people. So we need to start thinking of plans of our own, of what we want to see in the future, and we need to plant those seeds so that we can build after this. I feel this is a big moment. This is like definitely a turning point for this country, and I believe like the way that we get past this as like a greater society and just like as a planet, we need to work with Earth, not against it. We need to work with each other, and we need to plan for what a brighter future can even look like. What do we want to see, and how do we want to implement it? We need to create parallel structures to the ones that are in place so that we can take away power from the people who are oppressing us, I suppose. And by creating parallel structures, we can help facilitate a better world and like a transition into that world, rather than everything collapsing and having nothing else behind it or like outside of it that can then support a society. So yeah, I think another part of it is like self-care. Make sure that you are staying hydrated, that you are taking care of yourself. This is a very overwhelming time. And I think it's an energy of like, do less consumption and more creation. Because if we're just consuming negativity and insane things that are happening, it can put us into a state of paralysis rather than action. So I think it's important to balance out like the intake of information, making sure that you understand what's going on and that you are knowledgeable about what's happening, while also putting in the time to yourself, and not allowing that consumption to then take away from your ability to create and to envision better things for everyone. So yeah, making sure that you are balancing out those two different aspects, continuing to take care of yourself, your communities, coming up with ways and like strategies and plans for what we want to see, because we know what we don't want to see and we're seeing it. So where do we go from here? What do we actually want to see going forward, and how can we work with the planet to make things better? Next card that came out was the King of Cups. I believe part of that card is like, we're in an era of emotion, right? The truth is beginning to not really matter. Especially like with the advancement of AI and their ability to like create videos and images, and it's getting harder and harder for us to tell like what is real and what is not real. This era is going to be driven by emotion. And so I think we need to be very vigilant of like the things that we see and investigating, like, is this real? If they start to try and like pump out propaganda for whatever their purposes are. So just be aware of like how your energy and your emotions are being manipulated by the people in power, because emotion is energy in motion. And instead of allowing the manipulation and like the blatant lies that are being told to our faces, to like, instead of allowing that to put us in a state of paralysis and anger and just like, it is good to feel angry. It is good to have those emotions. Anger shows up when we have been wronged, and we know that we deserve better. So we need to take that energy and do something about it. So just, be very aware of the different manipulation that can happen at this time and most likely will happen. And be very aware of how things are impacting your emotions and channel that energy into something better, into actually doing something about it. Don't just let it stew. Do something about it, okay? And just be wary of manipulation, because I do feel like they're going to try to do some type of manipulation when it comes to like propaganda, images, videos, to try and instigate violence, or to use it as a justification of violence. So, and 1111 was just on the timer, so that may be relevant. Next card that came out was Strength. I mean, it's in the name of the card, but we need to be strong at this time. We need to... This is a very challenging period. I feel we're all being collectively traumatized by the people in power, and I think part of strength is our ability to come together as communities to fight for something better. It's the strength to not sit idly by and just allow things to happen to us. We need to do things so that we can make sure things are happening for us. And I think it's the strength to take action, as well as to investigate the emotions, like the hard emotions that we're all like processing right now, and looking at them and seeing how we can turn those emotions into progress. Next we have the Nine of Cups. I feel like the Nine of Cups usually has to do with like an individual success or like feeling accomplished within your own life, but it's a very solitary energy. So I feel like the majority of people, from what I can see in my day-to-day life, are continuing as if nothing is happening, and are doing okay. They're okay. But there is still an air of like isolation, and it's like success, like define what success means. And like, maybe you are taken care of, but are you content with that? Are you content with you being taken care of, even at the expense of like everyone else and all of the other things that are happening? And so I think that the people who are in an energy of Nine of Cups also could be like people who are feeling some type of emotional stability or security. Maybe it's just like a knowingness in the self of like, I stand on my beliefs, and I'm gonna do what I can to make sure that things can get better for others. I think it's just very important with like, the Nine energy came out in a couple different cards. People are feeling isolated, so just be mindful. Like, it feels like under the surface, right? Like surface level, things look good on paper for some people, but under the surface, it's this feeling of like isolation, and not really having like the community behind you. So I think now is the time to reach out to your communities. If you have the ability to help others, to like donate, for example, or to help out at food pantries, or to get involved in community, I think now is as good a time as ever to do those things. And also to be like an anchor and like for people who can see a way out of this and can come up with the plans for us to get through this, being that anchor for people and then creating those plans and taking the action required so that we can all feel that same sense of stability. 15:15 on the timer. Next is the Ten of Swords. Yeah, I think with the Ten of Swords, obviously that is a completion of a crazy and distressing thing. I do feel as though the energy right now is like season finale. Like now to the end of winter, things are going to go insane, and we need to make sure that we are not complicit. The Ten of Swords is often like betrayal. And I do feel like our entire lives as Americans, we were sold this idea that like this is the land of the free. And we were taught about World War II Germany, and we were like, we can never let this happen again. This can never happen again. And it's happening again. And the supposedly small, they want small government. Now they're going door to door kidnapping people. That's not very small government of you, is it? And this like anti-war is now invading and taking over other countries and threatening NATO. That's like a pretty big betrayal to the country, and to the ideals and the principles that this country was founded on. The Constitution, where are the checks and balances at? I don't know. I haven't seen them in recent times, actually. I know that like a lot of things that have been like that the administration has tried to do have been stopped in court, but also a lot of things that they were like, you can't do this. They just went ahead and did anyway. So we need to do something about it. They're betraying everything that this country was founded upon. And we need to remember, like, no taxation without representation. They cannot just attack the American people or anyone who's like, they can't just, what they're doing right now is insane. It is just a complete betrayal of everything that this country was founded on. And I think we're getting to a peak of that where like with this card, it's been night for a long time and now the sun is rising. I feel as though we're now seeing the darkness for all that it is. All the things that have been hidden are going to come to light. All the things that were done in the dark that maybe we were not aware of before, we're gonna see it very, very clearly. And these things were always there. We just couldn't always see them. So now that we can see them, we need to this is like a countrywide exorcism that we need to do, where we need to get them out. We need to put an end to everything that is going on and the consistent betrayal and manipulation that's happening to the American people. So it's an end to that. 18:18 on the timer. But with that sun coming up on a new day, we need to figure out where we go from here. Next up, we have the Emperor. Emperor has to do with like leadership. It's like an authority figure. I feel as though this is a time where we need new leaders to step forward. We need people who don't necessarily want power. Those are the people who should be in power, because those who are hungry for power and can't get enough of it, that's who's currently in charge. Nothing will ever be enough for them. So we need to make sure that we are taking action. The people who are good people who actually want things to get better need to step forward and be leaders. We need new leadership. And I think that the younger generations are going to be a big part of that change, because like older generations, they're going to age out. At some point, they're going to age out, whether that is because they die or because they retire. They're going to age out, and we need to step up and we need to do better. So yeah, we need a new era of leadership within this country in order for things to improve, so we can find a sense of stability again. Next, we have the Ten of Wands. Ten of Wands has to do with burdens. I feel as a country, what is currently going on is they're essentially using military tactics and narcissistic abuse on the American people on a daily basis. They are using strategies of overwhelm to create a sense of paralysis and make us feel as though we cannot do anything. They are doing so much all the time that of course we're going to feel burdened. Of course we're going to feel overwhelmed. I was just talking to my dad today about this. I was like, I feel really overwhelmed with everything that's going on right now, and like my pattern recognition of history and how like this is insane. This shouldn't be happening, and yet it is. So it is important to recognize like it's normal for you to feel overwhelmed at a time like this. This is a very overwhelming time. With that being said, find ways that you can ground yourself, whether that's like going outside and touching grass, or meditating, working out, just like finding ways to be present in your body, I think is going to be essential right now. And also figuring out like how can we as a society lay certain burdens down, and I think part of that is finding ways to make things better. I do think as it stands, like the system is most likely going to collapse in on itself, and we need to make sure that we can support one another through this. I think community is a big part of how we get through this. I mentioned that earlier. But yeah, give yourself grace, give yourself understanding. This is a very overwhelming time, and it makes sense to feel overwhelmed, and it's time that you look at the burdens that you're carrying and figure out which burdens did I place on myself and what burdens are being placed upon me, and what can I release or transmute, and then allow myself to hold space for new things and progress and ways forward. Next we have the Nine of Wands. This is the Wounded Warrior card. I think collectively we're all feeling like this guy right here. It's an energy of like, how much worse can it get? And I feel like we're at a point where like it's like really bad, actually. And so this card is asking us, like, we've seen the battlefield, we've seen what's happening. Are we gonna go into that battlefield, or are we gonna not fight even though we've been injured? I feel like this is a call to action, actually, because we got the 9 of Wands, and then we also have the 10 of Wands, and that's a progression. And we also have 10-10. So hold on, I'm trying to grab it. We also have 10-10. So I think this is a call to action of like, we have been beaten, people are getting assaulted, and it's being state sanctioned. It's state sanctioned violence. So this is a question of like, are we gonna take it? Are we gonna just sit at home? Or are we gonna go in the battlefield and fight back? So I think this is just a call of like, if you're able, this is like, something needs to happen. Something's gotta give. And you have the power to do something. But also, like, it's important to remember, this is a 9, right? 9s have to do often with isolation. So maybe you're feeling isolated in these feelings of like, I feel like I need to do something, but I'm not really sure what to do. You're not alone in that feeling. Even if you feel isolated, even if you feel like you're on your own in this, you are not. And there are more of us than there are of them. And we need to remember that. So, yeah, just keep that in mind. Last card is the Page of Wands. This is a messenger. This is a messenger. Usually of good news. So that makes me think partly that we need to stay in communication with each other and figure out like the best ways to go forward. I've kind of been repeating myself a lot of this. It's a lot of repetition, but I feel like even if we feel underprepared for whatever is happening, because like pages are younger to the suits, like of all the suit cards, they're the youngest, they're the least experienced. I think this is a call to young people, actually. Young people need to get involved. Make your voices heard. It is so important that you make your voices heard, because you are the future. Us young people, we are the future. So it is important that we speak up. It is important that we stand up and we fight back. So we cannot just allow things to continue the way that they are. On the bottom of the deck was the 9 of Swords, which makes me think that a lot of people right now are in a state of fear and anxiety and sleepless nights and just complete overwhelm, overthinking. But a big part of this also, like, they call this the card, it's like fear, but it's false evidence appearing real. So a lot of the reason why you're immobilized, it's a feeling of like helplessness, but you don't have to feel that way, because there are so many more of us than there are of them. And I think this is a final, like a last ditch effort on the part of like the far right extremists who can feel that their power is like, they're losing their grip. And so this is a last ditch effort to assert themselves, because they know they're not going to get another chance to do this. So they're going to go all in. And it's important for us to recognize that there are not very many of them. There are way more of us. And the only thing to fear is fear itself. Yeah. Don't let fear immobilize you from doing things. Don't let things just happen to you. Take action. Yeah. I think that's all I have to say. I hope that you enjoyed this reading, that it was helpful for you. These are like all the cards from the reading. There was these ones, and these ones. Wow. So yeah, I hope that this was helpful. I hope that it was empowering, and I believe that we can build a better future. We can do better. We need to come together with communities. We need to make our own plan for what we want to see going forward, and have each other's backs. Keep hope alive. Don't give up. Don't give up your power to them. Yeah, we can do this. Hope you enjoyed. Bye.